if you want to learn the story behind these photos and also the settings and compositions and maybe learn some tips from these three photos, let's get started with this video. Now, every photo journey starts with the first step, and usually that's the hiking. And it takes a lot of effort to get to beautiful places. This is how landscape photography is. And it's something that you have to get along with if you want to be a landscape photographer. You just simply can't get to some places unless you're hiking and you are carrying a really big backpack. Of course, there are exceptions from this, and there are lots of places where you can get by car. But in this situation, I had to go on top of a mountain, hiking through heavy snow. But as you can see, through some really, really beautiful scenery where the snow kind of hangs on the branches of the trees. I have the beautiful sunset light shining through the trees. So it's not such a bad place to be, even though it takes a lot of effort to get here. Now, once we get to the top of the mountain, we had a chance to go to two sunrises and two sunsets. Now, when you are in situations like this, when there's lots of cold and the snow is really big and it's kind of difficult to move around on the plateau of the mountain, you need to pick your battles. You know what I mean? You just have to think of when it's worth to go photograph the sunset and when it's not. So the first good moment that we had was, of course, during this beautiful and spectacular sunset. I looked on the sky. I saw some clouds in the sky. We had about 2 hours until the sunset will start. And that to me said, okay, well, we have a clear horizon line. So it's obvious that when the sun is going to go really down, all those clouds that are above us are going to become extremely colorful. So therefore, I just decided that we're going to go to a place where we have the opportunity to have multiple subjects to photograph. So we had the chance to look into the sun and have a really beautiful subject to photograph, and also turn our back to the sun and take some really beautiful and interesting photos. The thing was that all the photos are going to be made right at the moment when the sun is really low. So the first thing that I did was hike a little bit higher, and I was looking to this peak in the distance, and I was searching for some interesting pine trees covered in snow that are going to frame this really beautiful peak. Also, I had to wait a little bit to have some light on that peak. The settings for this photo were 32 millimeters f16, 1/50th of a second, and ISO 100. Of course, I used a tripod that it's always by my side, and what I wanted was to have this big chunk of or this big group of pine trees to my right, and then the peak in the distance to my left. I don't know why, but it made sense like this, because I have a diagonal that is descending from right to left. So if I was going to have to my left a really big group of trees plus the peak, I think the photo would have been out of balance, and that left side would have been too dominant. After I took this photo came this second one, which is only a few minutes later, but as you can see, the light become much more, had a lot more contrast, and the redness became more intense. Now, what I liked here were the shadows and the shapes, the little patterns that you can see in the snow. And the settings for this photo were 20 millimeters f16, 20th of a second in ISO 100. So I'm shooting wider to have this this dynamic perspective of the shadow starting from the left, going to the right, and on the diagonal, and resting the attention of the viewer. And I also used an ND gradient filter of 3 stops to kind of darken the top part of this photo a little bit more. A thing that I had to be careful was to keep the horizon line straight. Usually in a situation like this, you end up with a crooked horizon line. And when you want to straighten it up, it's going to take a little bit from your photo. Now, the last photo was after I did these two, I went down and the sun was already beyond the horizon. This is when I'm looking into the sun. And right now, as you can see, I have this rock to my left. I have these beautiful patterns and textures in the snow. And I also have this incredible looking sky. The settings for this photo were 19mm f16, 1/4 of a second in ISO 100. The fact that the sun went over the horizon line helped me a lot, because I could take only one photo and had the entire dynamic range needed. And just by pushing the shadows a little bit and taking the highlights a little bit down, I managed to create a balance between these two areas. The original photo, of course, looked a lot more darker in the lower part because I exposed mainly for this highlight. I didn't want it to lose the highlights because and I think it looks bad if you lose the highlights in a situation like this, because it's all about the light. It's all about the beautiful colors. And especially during winter, you get these really nice reflections of color. You get red, yellow, even magenta and purple in the snow. I really hope that this short talk about these 3 photos were really useful to you. And if you want to support me, you can join me for one of my workshops. The first workshop that I have is in Tuscany in May. And then you can join me in the Dolomites in September. The details are on my website, and you can also purchase my ebook on landscape photography. All the details are there, and the link is in the description of this video. So thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on photographing, because as you know, it's the only way that you can get better.